The gang members, who they say pulled the triggers, ruthless.
These defendants allegedly engaged in gun violence, committing 6 shootings, one of which injured a rival gang member.
Abdullah, how will you plead to the charges?
Alleged Fivesley gang leader Abdullah Zika and other alleged accomplices were taken out of the 50th precinct in the Bronx.
Police say you're a trigger puller. Is that true? What? Police say you're a trigger puller. Is that
an arrest warrant and a mother unleashing her fury, barring police from entering her Bronx apartment to arrest her son.
Relief tonight, more than a dozen suspected gang members accused of terrorizing a neighborhood now off the streets, all thanks to what they posted on Facebook. They allegedly used the streets of the South Bronx to do their dirty work and did their business online.
One of the city's most violent gangs are behind bars this afternoon. They're part of the Trinitarios gang that calls itself OED, which stands for Own Every Dollar. They operate
their gang.
They did so violently, investigators say. Over the course of 3.5 years, they carried out at least 32 violent.
The suspect's name is Richard Ramirez, and he is said to be the alleged leader of the Los Sures division of the Trinitarios gang. Now, you know from all our reporting over the last year that the Los Sures were attached to the Junior murder outside that bodega in the Belmont section of the Bronx.
Nearly 24 alleged gang members in the Bronx are indicted on attempted and several other charges. Prosecutors say the defendants operated out of the Castle Hill and Co-op City sections of the borough.
The NYPD calls them one of the most dangerous gangs in the country, and they were operating right here in the Bronx.
TDA is a dangerous transnational gang that is specialized in trafficking and mayhem.
The Bronx has always been a borough of legends. It's the birthplace of hip-hop, where DJ Kool Herc changed music on Sedgwick Avenue, and the home of stars like Jennifer Lopez, Fat Joe, Cardi B, Sonia Sotomayor, and Derek Jeter. From Yankee Stadium to the Grand Concourse, the Bronx is known for culture, hustle, and resilience, a place that helped shape the sound and soul of New York City. But behind the music and murals, another story has been playing out in the shadows. For years, the Bronx has been home to some of New York's most dangerous street crews and gang alliances, from 280 and RPT to the BloodHound Brims Bloods, Guerrilla Stone Bloods, Two Fly YGs, Big Money Bosses, Red Side, Sex Money Murda, Sevo, and even international players like Tren de Aragua. Housing projects, park corners, stairwells, and train lines have doubled as battlegrounds, with social media turning beefs into viral warfare. This documentary pulls back the curtain on that underworld, showing how law enforcement tracked the guns, the music videos, the coded posts, and the phone calls to dismantle some of the Bronx's most notorious gangs, and what that fight has cost the community caught in the middle.
Takedown of accused gang members in the Bronx.
CBS News' Andrea Grimes is live at the 43rd Precinct Station House in Soundview this morning. Andrea.
And good morning to you, Chris and Mary. Sources say hundreds of gang members are being arrested this morning here across the Bronx. It's happening now as we speak. We're in front of the 43rd Precinct Station House in the Soundview section, where you could see dozens of police officers outside. We've been watching them take in these accused gang members all morning. Let's show you some video, though, because we were actually there when they arrested one of them. They've been doing these sweeps all morning, we're told, beginning at around 2:30. Sources say about 1,000 law enforcement officers are part of this massive sweep, what's being called one of the largest in city history. We do not have...
They're all members or associates of the big money bosses and Two Fly gangs. Over the last 9 years, there's been vicious competition between them, which has led to a number of victims, including 92-year-old Sadie Mitchell, who was hit by a stray bullet at her home. Police! The gangs, whose average member is aged 24, operated from playgrounds and abandoned houses in New York's poorest borough, the Bronx.
In April 2016, federal authorities announced what they called the largest gang takedown in New York City history. when more than 120 alleged members and associates of two rival Bronx street gangs, the Two Fly YGs and the Big Money Bosses, were indicted on sweeping federal charges. The cases, brought in two separate indictments in federal court, painted both gangs as full-scale criminal enterprises that had wreaked havoc across the northern Bronx for years. Prosecutors alleged that the crews controlled parts of public housing developments and nearby blocks, using fear, retaliation, and open violence to maintain their grip on territory and drug profits. According to federal prosecutors, members of Two Fly and BMB were involved in a wide range of serious crimes. Investigators tied the gangs to open-air drug markets selling drugs, generating hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, over several years. The indictments linked gang members to at least 8 deletions and numerous non-fatal shootings, stabbings, and assaults, including incidents where both rivals and innocent bystanders were struck. Among the most tragic examples were the demise of a 15-year-old and the shooting of a 92-year-old woman in her apartment by a stray bullet, both attributed to gang violence associated with this feud. The rivalry between Two Fly and BMB, rooted in beefs over territory, drug spots, and perceived disrespect, helped drive a pattern of back-and-forth shootings that made parts of the northern Bronx one of the city's most volatile areas.
Now off the streets as investigators tie their ballistics to at least 6 different shootings, calling the gang members, who they say pulled the triggers, ruthless.
These defendants allegedly engaged in gun violence, committing 6 shootings, one of which injured a rival gang member. They allegedly fired wildly on the streets without regard for the lives of anyone else or for their own lives.
DA Darcel Clark referring to an 18-month investigation with the NYPD, arresting 21 men and 1 teen, members of the RPT organization from River Park Towers, a group of Bloods going after rival gang, the Crips, from the Highbridge section.
This gang would shoot at their ops in the vicinity of schools, MTA buses, even in close proximity to Times Square. No regard for anyone in the area.
This tan and black gun tracked on social media and YouTube, where investigators say gang members posing as aspiring rappers bragged about violence, targeting their rivals, and animal cruelty, all for views.
22 alleged members and associates of the River Park Towers, gang better known as RPT, were indicted on a sweeping set of charges connected to a series of shootings, assaults, and violent incidents that authorities say brought chaos to the Highbridge section of the Bronx. According to Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark and NYPD Commissioner Keechan Sewell, the defendants, which include 21 adult men and 1 teenage boy, operated out of the River Park Towers complex overlooking the Harlem River and allegedly turned the area into a hotspot for gunplay, territorial disputes, and social media-fueled gang rivalries between 2020 and 2022. Prosecutors announced that the 65-count indictment includes conspiracy. 1. According to investigators, RPT members were involved in multiple violent confrontations meant to assert dominance over Highbridge and neighboring blocks. A separate indictment charged 7 defendants with attempted deletion and weapons possession for a brazen August 17, 2020 shooting in which they allegedly fired 11 rounds into a building vestibule, narrowly missing their intended target. The attack, prosecutors say, was part of an ongoing feud with rival crews, including Crip-affiliated groups and smaller neighborhood sets that clashed with RPT over respect, reputation, and control of the area around the towers. Video surveillance, ballistics evidence, and intercepted messages helped tie individual gang members to several of these shootings, including incidents where bullets went through building lobbies, stairwells, and courtyards while residents, many of them children, were present. In yet another indictment, prosecutors charged several RPT members with a violent April 25, 2021 jailhouse attack inside Rikers Island. According to DA Clark, RPT members and their allies ambushed a known Crips member during a housing area shift change, collectively punching, stomping, and striking the victim in an assault that investigators say was coordinated beforehand. The attack was cited as evidence of the gang's reach beyond the streets and into the city's jail system, where long-standing alliances and rivalries often continue despite the tensions. One of the most disturbing allegations in the case involved an animal cruelty charge that prosecutors say revealed the gang's culture of social media-driven intimidation. According to the DA's office, several RPT members live-streamed a pigeon that had flown into the area and mocked the bird as if it were a Crip entering their territory. During the live stream, one of the suspects jokingly promised viewers that if the stream reached 100 views, they would delete the bird. When it hit that threshold, the defendants allegedly beat the pigeon to death with a cane on Facebook Live. Prosecutors said the act illustrated the gang's willingness to use social media as a tool for intimidation, while glorifying cruelty and violence for online engagement.
Relief tonight, more than a dozen suspected gang members accused of terrorizing a neighborhood now off the streets, all thanks to what they posted on Facebook. But bad guys in the Bronx did it all. They allegedly used the streets of the South Bronx to do their dirty work and did their business online.
They go by names like Easy, Wild Hound, and Baby, but their alleged crimes, anything but child's play. Prosecutors in the Bronx tonight announced the indictments of more than a dozen alleged gang members. They say have been terrorizing part of the South Bronx for more than 2 years, who prosecutors say took to social media not just to brag about shooting people, but also to sell weapons, turning Facebook into a public bazaar for illegal guns. They range in age from 17 to 20 years old, meaning some were as young as 15 when the investigation began.
Authorities in the Bronx announced the takedown of a violent crew accused of terrorizing the Norwood section of the borough for more than 2 years, an operation made possible not just through surveillance, undercover work, and informants, but through the gang's own reckless decision to broadcast their crimes on Facebook. More than a dozen suspected gang members, some barely old enough to vote, were indicted after prosecutors pieced together a trail of online confessions, gun advertisements, and violent threats that the crew openly shared across social media. According to investigators, the group, which included teenagers as young as 17 and some believed to be involved since they were only 15, operated as a loose but violent alliance of young bloods affiliated members who adopted aliases like Easy, Wild Hound, Baby, and other street monikers. Despite their youthful appearance, law enforcement described their alleged crimes as organized, aggressive, and deadly, involving a pattern of shootings, robberies, assaults, and street-level drug sales centered around East 198th Street, the Grand Concourse, and nearby blocks long plagued by gang rivalries. What shocked prosecutors wasn't just the violence, it was the gang's willingness to document it publicly. Investigators say the defendants routinely took to Facebook to brag about shootings, post photos of themselves holding firearms, and even sell illegal weapons through private and public posts. Detectives described the page as a virtual gun market, where the young gang members treated pistols, revolvers, and even modified handguns like merchandise. Screenshots captured the defendants flashing gang signs, taunting rivals, and discussing upcoming retaliations. In some instances, gang members allegedly filmed themselves minutes before or after shootings, providing investigators with time-stamped evidence linking them to specific incidents.
Nearly 24 alleged gang members in the Bronx are indicted on attempted murder and several other charges. Prosecutors say the defendants operated out of the Castle Hill and Co-op City sections of the borough. The gang members are affiliated with the Bloods and range in age from 18 to 39 years of age. Investigators say they used wiretaps on the men to gather evidence of them selling illegal guns and drugs. Bronx DA Robert Johnson released a statement saying, quote, "With these arrests and indictments, we have been able to prevent further violence from occurring. This is part of our ongoing drive to combat gun violence and drugs, to make the streets of the Bronx even safer for our deserving, hardworking citizens."
Authorities in the Bronx announced a sweeping takedown of 2 violent Bloods-affiliated street organizations whose members spent years terrorizing Castle Hill, Co-op City, and surrounding neighborhoods through a steady mix of shootings, deletion plots, drug trafficking, and weapons dealing. A total of 23 suspected members and leaders of the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation and the Black Stone Guerrilla Gangstas were indicted on a staggering 217 criminal counts, an operation prosecutors described as one of the most significant gang crackdowns in the borough in recent years. Law enforcement officials said the groups were responsible for flooding Bronx communities with various drugs and firearms, while simultaneously orchestrating violent attacks and retaliations both inside New York City and in connected operations stretching down to Maryland. Prosecutors emphasized that these were not disorganized street crews, but well-structured, highly coordinated criminal enterprises operating under Blood's umbrella leadership and using the culture of intimidation, street violence, and narcotics revenue to maintain their power. Investigators say the gangs were led by Rason "Lowrider" Samuels, the alleged boss of the untouchable guerrilla Stone Nation, and Corey "Angry" Hickson, identified as the leader of the Black Stone guerrilla Gangstas. Under their direction, members allegedly carried out shootings, plotted deletions, moved narcotics throughout the Bronx, and regularly traveled to Maryland to maintain connections with suppliers, expand their drug market, and coordinate distribution networks that cross state lines. The gang's membership included men who used flamboyant or menacing nicknames Brandon, Untouchable, Nieves, Michael Butt Naked Hamilton, and others nicknames that prosecutors say reflected both internal rank and their attempts to portray themselves as untouchable within the streets they control. But investigators revealed that these personas ultimately became part of the evidence used against them.
Police sanctuary! Police sanctuary! Police sanctuary! Police sanctuary! Police sanctuary!
Police were looking for a 24-year-old man in that ground floor apartment. They took 30 minutes to bring him out, so we weren't sure if they found him, but they did. The suspect's name is Richard Ramirez, and he is said to be the alleged leader of the Los Sures division of the Trinitarios gang. Now, you know from all our reporting over the last year that the Los Sures were attached to the Junior outside that bodega in the Belmont section of the Bronx. In this case, the guys that are being rounded up, they're being charged with other attacks, mostly stabbings, maybe one shooting. 2 of the attacks involved machetes. That's what we're being told. So Richard Ramirez is the suspect. And we just have new video that came in the last 30 minutes from cameraman Bill Muller. He was here at the precinct, and some of those suspects that were rounded up in other locations are being brought in for processing here to the 41st precinct in the Bronx. They will be charged in this case. One of the guys, I'm told, has already been arrested in a federal case involving a 14-year-old who was stabbed on the Bronx River Parkway last year. That's a separate case. He's also being charged in this case. And also 2 guys connected to Junior's are also being charged in this indictment.
Police had previously released video of a 14-year-old teenager who was chased down along the Bronx River Parkway. He was brutally attacked and stabbed, but did survive. At the time, they said the incident was linked to the same gang.
Wednesday morning, teams of NYPD officers descended on multiple locations across the Bronx and Upper Manhattan, executing a series of coordinated raids targeting the Los Sures set of the Trinitarios gang. The operation, months in the making, was part of a sweeping investigation into a violent pattern of stabbings, slashings, and machete attacks that authorities say the crew carried out between 2017 and 2023. By the end of the morning, 10 men were in custody, charged with crimes ranging from conspiracy to attempted. Police said 5 additional suspects remain at large and are still being actively sought. According to police sources, many of the suspects were tied to the Bronx-based Los Sures clique, one of the most feared subsets within the Trinitarios, a Dominican gang known for its rigid hierarchy, violent retaliation rules, and signature use of machetes. The raid's top arrest was the alleged current leader of Los Sures, taken into custody inside a 3-family home in the Soundview section of the Bronx. Detectives identified him as the man who stepped into power following the downfall of former Los Sures boss Diego Suero, who is currently awaiting trial for his alleged role in orchestrating the demise of 15-year-old Lisandro Jr. Guzman Fellas. The demise of Guzman Fellas in June 2018 remains one of the most notorious gang deletions in modern New York history. Jr. was dragged from a Bronx bodega and stabbed with knives and machetes by Trinitarios members who had mistakenly believed he was a rival. 5 men have already been convicted of first-degree deletion in the case, and several more have been sentenced to lengthy prison terms. Although Wednesday's arrests are not directly tied to Jr.'s death, Police officials acknowledged that the brutality of the slaying forced investigators to widen their surveillance and intelligence operations surrounding Trinitarios factions, ultimately leading to the crackdown on Lost Shores. Authorities say the 10 suspects arrested in this latest sweep are connected to a series of violent attacks that stretch back to 2017. These assaults occurred primarily in Upper Manhattan in areas like Inwood and Washington Heights, as well as in pockets of the Bronx where Lost Shores members were expanding their influence. According to the indictments, the men engaged in what police described as very vicious acts of violence with knives and machetes, often ambushing victims on sidewalks, outside restaurants, or near transit stops. Some of the assaults were allegedly pre-planned retaliation. Others appeared to be random, intended only to instill fear and reinforce the crew's dominance. One of the most significant names charged in this case is Elvin Garcia, already convicted in connection to Junior's demise, who now faces new charges related to conspiracy and gang assault. Another suspect picked up during the raids is accused of the near-fatal stabbing of a 14-year-old boy on the Bronx River Parkway in June 2018, just 2 days before Guzman Fellas met his demise. That attack left the teen with deep wounds, but unlike Junior, he managed to survive. The investigation revealed a complex internal structure within Lost Shores, with leaders issuing orders and younger members carrying out attacks meant to maintain loyalty, intimidate rivals, or punish perceived betrayal. Detectives said the crew communicated through encrypted apps, coded messages, and in-person meetings known as mandamientos, where plans for assaults or retaliation were discussed. Surveillance, undercover operations, and interviews with former members helped strengthen the case. In the aftermath of Junior's tragic demise, the NYPD vowed to aggressively target the gang sets responsible for the resurgence of machete-driven violence in the Bronx and Manhattan. This operation, authorities said, is a direct extension of that commitment and a warning to remaining Trinitarios factions that more takedowns are coming.
The NYPD calls them one of the most dangerous gangs in the country, and they were operating right here in the Bronx.
TDA is a dangerous transnational gang that is specialized in murder, trafficking, and mayhem.
A gun trafficking ring operating out of this Morris Heights apartment was shut down on Tuesday afternoon. Our cameras were rolling as 3 alleged members of the Tren de Aragua gang were arrested.
During yesterday's case takedown, one of these perpetrators fractured the arm of one of the detectives so severely.
Today, the Queens District Attorney's Office announced a sweeping indictment against 10 alleged TDA members. The DA says they made money by selling guns and drugs on the street, with transactions taking place across state lines and throughout the Bronx and Queens in broad daylight.
In one instance, the defendant transported an AR-15 wrapped in a black garbage bag for sale in the Bronx County.
A major New York investigation revealed the growing presence of the Venezuelan-based Tren de Aragua gang operating inside the United States, after authorities announced a sweeping indictment against 10 members and associates accused of running a massive multi-state gun trafficking and drug distribution operation. The case exposed a criminal pipeline that allegedly stretched from New York to Texas, Florida, Virginia, and beyond, moving firearms, narcotics, and cash with the structure and discipline of an international cartel. According to prosecutors, many of the defendants were Venezuelan migrants who had entered the U.S. illegally and then embedded themselves in New York City shelters and communities before connecting with the TDA's criminal network. The indictment outlines a high-risk criminal enterprise involved in distributing illegal firearms, including AR-15-style rifles, Glock pistols fitted with automatic switches, and high-capacity magazines, as well as trafficking dangerous designer drugs like pink coke, a mixture of ketamine and X that has been rising in South American markets. Law enforcement officials said the group operated like a small army, transporting weapons across state lines and coordinating drug sales using encrypted messaging apps, burner phones, and migrant shelter networks to hide their movement. One of the most violent incidents tied to the investigation occurred during an arrest operation in New York City, when police say a TDA suspect violently resisted and broke an NYPD officer's arm in the struggle. Authorities used the incident as proof of the gang's extreme aggression and willingness to attack law enforcement officers even when outnumbered. Officers involved in the operation described the takedown as one of the most dangerous raids they had performed in recent years due to the number of firearms and the gang's reputation for unpredictable violence. During the coordinated raids, investigators recovered 34 illegal guns, including assault rifles, fully automatic handguns, ghost gun components, extended magazines, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. They also seized quantities of narcotics, cutting agents, ledgers, and communication devices used to coordinate interstate trafficking. Law enforcement officials said the defendants plan to expand their gun pipeline south into states with weaker regulations and even internationally, including into Colombia, mirroring the gang's structure abroad. The 10 individuals indicted faced a range of charges including weapons trafficking, narcotics distribution, conspiracy, money laundering, and assault on a police officer. Prosecutors emphasized that this case demonstrates the gang's rapid spread into U.S. cities, noting that Tren de Aragua, originally formed inside Venezuela's prison system, is considered one of the most violent and fast-growing transnational gangs in the Western Hemisphere. Several of the defendants were already involved in criminal investigations in other states, suggesting that the network had been expanding for months before arrests were made.
Some of the most violent gang members they've ever seen.
All right, Lisa Everest joins us now with her exclusive look with the NYPD. Lisa.
Well, Steve and Natasha, we had that firsthand look at how the NYPD is bringing alleged gang members who terrorize their own community to justice. And now the Bronx DA says they've been charged in a 176-count felony indictment.
Nay Benz, police say you're a trigger puller. Police say you're a trigger puller. Is that true? What? Police say you're a trigger puller. Is that?
Targets are 20 members of the Slattery gang based out of Slattery Playground in the Fordham section of the Bronx. That's aspiring drill rapper Nay Benz, who police say is one of the gang leaders. The average age of the case subjects is 20. Teen girls are trigger pullers too.
District Attorney Clark announced an indictment involving 17 males and 3 females associated with the Slattery, also known as Slattery Gang, which operates near Slattery Playground on East 183rd Street. The 176-count indictment includes charges of second-degree conspiracy, attempted deletion in the second degree, first-degree robbery, first-degree assault, second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, attempted gang assault in the first degree, second-degree robbery, and other related offenses. The charges stem from an 18-month investigation conducted by the Bronx District Attorney's Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau and the NYPD Gun Violence Suppression Division. The investigation alleges that members of the gang conspired to possess firearms and commit violent acts against rival gang members between June 15, 2020 and June 27, 2024. This period included 14 shooting incidents, a violent altercation involving a sharp object inside Bronx Supreme Court, a carjacking at gunpoint, a stabbing, and multiple instances of illegal gun possession. The investigation revealed that members of Slattery use social media platforms, particularly Instagram and Facebook, to threaten rival gangs and promote their activities. They also posted drill rap videos on YouTube, where they boasted about various shooting incidents and mocked deleted rivals. 15 handguns and pistols were recovered during the investigation. One of the incidents occurred on June 18, 2020, when defendants Nazim King and Darren Williams allegedly ran toward a group of people playing cards at Morris Avenue and East 184th Street. King reportedly fired at least 6 shots, injuring 3 individuals who were not involved in gang activity. Shortly after the incident, Williams was shot by members of a rival gang, and King allegedly fired multiple shots in retaliation. Another incident took place on July 11, 2020, when King and Phoenix Charlie reportedly went to East 194th Street and Briggs Avenue. Charlie allegedly fired 4 shots intended for a rival, but instead struck a bystander. On January 27, 2023, Charlie and others encountered members of a rival gang in the Bronx Hall of Justice, outside the youth part on the 5th floor. They allegedly assaulted the rival group, and Charlie is accused of using sharp objects to inflict a large laceration on one individual, resulting in a wound from the lower chest to the abdomen that required 35 stitches. Later that day, Charlie reportedly posted on social media about the incident, claiming the courthouse as his territory. A week earlier, Charlie had shared a video on Instagram demonstrating how to smuggle scalpels into the courthouse.
Police announcing their arrival, executing an arrest warrant, and a mother unleashing her fury, barring police from entering her Bronx apartment to arrest her son, a suspected gang member. She put up a fight. After minutes of tense moments in a small vestibule, police were able to get control and get her 20-year-old son in handcuffs. They say he's a member of the 1300 crew.
You're probably the most violent guys that are still out on the street.
Police say the 1300 crew is responsible for wreaking havoc throughout the North Bronx, on the streets, in subways, and in NYPD. Surveillance video shows a drive-by shooting, and it's not just gun violence. The crew allegedly went on a 6-day robbery spree 2 years ago. They brutally attacked an off-duty officer while he was on a morning jog.
I have so much pain, in my back, my shoulder, my head.
Pix 11 News spoke exclusively with Officer Mohammed Chaudhry after he was released from the hospital.
According to the prosecution, alleged members and associates of the 1300 gang, reportedly named after 213th Street, have been charged in connection with 6 shooting incidents that occurred in or near the Gun Hill section of the Bronx between April and September 2022. Defendants Kaishawn Johnson, Dreshawn Lucas, and Omari Connor were arraigned before Bronx Supreme Court Justice Seth Steed in late July and early August 2024. All 3 were remanded into custody, with Johnson and Lucas scheduled to appear in court again on October 4, 2024, and Connor due back on August 15, 2024. The nearly 2-year investigation, led by the Bronx District Attorney's Office, Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau, and the NYPD Criminal Enterprise Investigation Section, began following the violent robbery of off-duty NYPD officer Mohammed Chaudhry, who was jogging in Castle Hill. During the robbery, Chaudhry was knocked to the ground, punched, and kicked, resulting in severe injuries that left him hospitalized for over 2 weeks and caused life-altering harm. 3 defendants in the 1300 indictment, Jordan Sewell, Ashawn Logan, and Matthew Pinnock, have pleaded guilty to first-degree assault and additional charges related to the Chaudhry incident. 2 have been sentenced to 7 years in prison, while the 3rd awaits sentencing. On April 12, 2022, one of the defendants reportedly boarded an MTA bus and pursued a group of people after disembarking. He allegedly fired multiple shots on East 225th Street, one of which struck a 15-year-old girl in the leg as she exited the bus. On April 26, 2022, another defendant allegedly opened fire in front of 3491 Baychester Avenue, a heavily crowded area, while chasing an individual. On August 17, 2022, 13 defendants allegedly gathered at Matthew Pinnock's residence before executing 2 drive-by shootings targeting rival gang members. 4 of them reportedly left the home around midnight carrying at least 3 firearms and fired multiple shots at a residence on Fish Avenue. They then proceeded to another location on Crotona Avenue and fired at an individual. On August 23, 2022, 5 defendants, suspecting a rival gang member was near one of their homes, allegedly went to Grove Street and Prospect Avenue and opened fire. During the incident, a 73-year-old woman was struck by a bullet in her left leg while sitting outside a building, resulting in life-altering injuries. On August 27, 2022, 1 defendant attended a candlelight vigil at the Parkside houses for a deletion victim. Upon spotting a rival gang member, he allegedly fired a shot at the individual and then discarded his firearm. He was apprehended after a foot pursuit. According to the indictment, on September 9, 2022, Garcia, 19, allegedly engaged in an altercation with a rival gang member after school. He then reportedly communicated with Johnson, 23, and instructed him to retrieve a firearm from an apartment on Fish Avenue. Garcia allegedly took the firearm from Johnson, proceeded to the Pelham Parkway houses, and fired at least 13 shots into a crowd, injuring 4 innocent bystanders.
Every single day, just to live a life exclusively to benefit their gang.
They did so violently, investigators say. Over the course of 3.5 years, they carried out at least 32 drill rap videos made against any perceived threat to the gang.
They call people out directly. They make fun of incidents, individuals that have perished prior to gunfire, opposing gang members.
One of those locations is here on East Fordham Road. You see it's a busy shopping area. 2 of the suspects, both under 18 years old, allegedly shot at someone here in the middle of the day. That was in 2020.
In the aftermath of the NYPD's Operation Drilly investigation.
These are the trigger pullers, the very few individuals that make it uncomfortable and downright dangerous for all the great people. And this gang conducted wolf pack-like searches throughout the investigation. What are they looking for? They're hunting opposing gang members.
According to the investigation, the defendants, alleged members of the G-Side Drilly gang, a subset of blood, sex, money, murder, are accused of engaging in a series of violent acts between September 20th, 2018 and March 15, 2022. These incidents reportedly took place primarily in the areas of East Gun Hill Road, Hall Avenue, and Decatur Avenue. During this period, the defendants are alleged to have carried out multiple incidents of violence, including fatal and non-fatal shootings and stabbings, resulting in the deletion of 2 individuals and injuries to 6 others. Defendants, who are also prominent in the drill rap scene, are accused of boasting about these violent acts in music videos posted on YouTube. The investigation led to the seizure of 18 firearms. Additionally, 3 defendants have been charged with committing violent acts while held at Rikers Island. One notable incident occurred on January 9, 2019, when, at approximately 1 o'clock, 4 defendants, including 1 teenager, along with other individuals, allegedly surrounded an 18-year-old CUNY prep student as he was leaving school and attempted to rob him. The defendants reportedly attacked the victim with multiple weapons, including a knife, resulting in serious injuries that required emergency medical intervention and life-saving blood transfusions. The incident was captured on video surveillance. On July 20th, 2020, in front of 3343 Decatur Avenue, 6 defendants, 2 of whom were teenagers at the time, allegedly pursued James Rivera, 24. 4 defendants reportedly fired multiple shots at Rivera, and 1 defendant allegedly attempted to stab him after he fell to the ground. Rivera ultimately succumbed to a gunshot wound to the back. On September 29, 2020, at approximately 2 o'clock, 2 juvenile defendants allegedly fired shots at their intended target in a busy commercial area near a subway station on East Fordham Road, putting the lives of numerous bystanders, including children, at risk. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. On April 25, 2021, inside the Robert Ann Devorance Center on Rikers Island, 3 defendants are accused of assaulting a rival group member. Another incident occurred on March 17, 2021, when 4 defendants reportedly entered an apartment on Hall Avenue and allegedly shot Delilah Vasquez, 20, at close range. Surveillance footage shows the defendants entering and leaving the building. On June 28, 2021, at approximately 10 o'clock, 2 defendants allegedly fired multiple shots at their target in front of 3573 DeKalb Avenue. The shooting resulted in injuries to 3 uninvolved bystanders, a 66-year-old woman, a 39-year-old man, and a 31-year-old man. On the evening of October 22, 2021, 2 defendants reportedly waited outside a barber shop on East Gun Hill Road for about 15 minutes before entering and allegedly firing multiple shots at their intended target. The individual, who was getting a haircut at the time, attempted to take cover but was struck in the stomach and leg. He was transported to the hospital and survived the injuries. Surveillance footage shows patrons in the barbershop running for cover during the
city's
incident.
most violent gangs are behind bars this afternoon. They're part of the Trinitarios gang that calls itself OED, which stands for Own Every Dollar. They operated mainly in Washington Heights, also in the Bronx, though, and Queens. They're charged with narcotics conspiracy. The defendants are accused of selling several drugs, including fentanyl.
High-end heists, a shootout with police, and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of watches and jewelry. It's all in a night's work for alleged members of the OED, or Own Every Dollar crew, which may be an affiliate of the notorious Trinitarios gangs. Now time may be running out for them. A high-end armed robbery ring believed to be responsible for a dozen or more heists throughout the city were added again outside the trendy Pergola restaurant in the Nomad District about 1:15 Monday morning. Police say officers tried to pull over 2 suspects in a BMW they believed was connected to previous crimes, but the driver sped up and jumped a curb.
Federal prosecutors in New York have unsealed a superseding indictment charging more than a dozen members of the criminal street gang Own Every Dollar, OD, with racketeering, robbery, illegal firearms possession, narcotics trafficking, and both attempted and completed deletions. OED, a subset of the Trinitarios gang, operated mainly in and around Washington Heights, as well as in the Bronx and Queens. The group is known for its use of extreme violence to further its criminal activities. The 16 defendants are accused of distributing various narcotics. The indictment alleges that they sold drugs to undercover police officers and were frequently apprehended with narcotics prepackaged for sale. Many of the defendants allegedly posted photos and videos of themselves holding firearms on social media. The indictment links the group to at least 5 fatal incidents, including the deletion of 41-year-old Anthony Savarese on February 7, 2022, the deletions of 30-year-old Richard Dominguez and Israel Cabrera on July 2, 2020, the deletion of 22-year-old Nicholas Vargas Jr. on August 31, 2018, and the deletion of Hector Cruz on April 14, 2019. The document details numerous acts of violence committed by the defendants. On August 31, 2018, Yankee Nunez Jr. allegedly shot Nicholas Vargas near 232nd Street in the Bronx. On April 14, 2019, Nunez Jr. and Jaron Pina allegedly targeted Hector Cruz near West 135th Street in Manhattan. On January 24, 2020, Nunez Jr., Brian Hernandez, Wilson Mendez, Stephen Joaquin, and Argenis Tavares allegedly fired at a rival group member near West 136th Street in Manhattan. In February 2020, Nunez Jr., Pina, Hernandez, and Tavares allegedly fired at rival gang members near West 138th Street in Manhattan. On March 30, 2020, Nunez Jr. and Joaquin allegedly fired at a rival narcotics dealer near West 180th Street in Manhattan. On April 18, 2020, Nunez Sr. allegedly fired at an individual near Audubon Avenue in Manhattan. Other incidents include a shooting on May 13, 2020, when Justin Diza and Mendez allegedly fired at rival narcotics dealers near West 184th Street in Manhattan. On May 15, 2020, Hernandez allegedly fired at a rival narcotics dealer near West 188th Street in Manhattan. On June 26, 2020, Nunez Jr., Joaquin, and Ari Rodriguez Rosario allegedly fired at rival narcotics dealers during a high-speed pursuit in Washington Heights. On July 2, 2020, Nunez Jr., Hernandez, and Rodriguez Rosario allegedly deleted Richard Dominguez and Israel Cabrera near Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx. On July 5, 2020, Nunez Jr. and Rodriguez Rosario allegedly fired at rival gang members near West 136th Street in Manhattan. On July 18, 2020, Nunez Jr. allegedly fired at an individual near West 183rd Street in Manhattan. On October 22, 2020, Nunez Jr. and Diza allegedly fired at individuals near Valentine Avenue in the Bronx. On December 13, 2020, Mendez allegedly committed an armed robbery near West 188th Street in Manhattan. The indictment further describes incidents involving internal conflicts and violent confrontations between the gang members themselves. For example, on August 12, 2021, Hugo Rodriguez and Nunez Sr. allegedly engaged in a shootout with each other near West 183rd Street in Manhattan. In August 2021, Diza allegedly committed an armed robbery near West 28th Street in Manhattan. In September 2021, Diza allegedly attempted another armed robbery near the FDR Drive in Manhattan and, along with Mendez, committed an armed robbery in Queens. On January 22, 2022, Nunez Jr., Pina, Trejo, and Joaquin allegedly committed an armed robbery and fired shots at several individuals near West 145th Street in Manhattan. On February 7, 2022, Mayovan X Rodriguez allegedly deleted Anthony Savarese near Andrews Avenue in the Bronx. On February 14, 2022, Hugo Rodriguez and Trejo allegedly committed an armed robbery near West 203rd Street in Manhattan. Finally, on March 4, 2022, Nunez Jr. and Trejo allegedly fired at a rival gang member near Dyckman Street in Manhattan.
At number 5, we have the Fivesley Gang.
Abdullah, how will you plead to the charges? Alleged Fivesley gang leader Abdullah Zika and other alleged accomplices were taken out of the 50th precinct in the Bronx to face a judge on multiple felony charges ranging from armed robberies to attempted murder.
In a significant development, the Bronx District Attorney, in collaboration with the police commissioner, has unveiled charges against 12 individuals believed to be members of the Fivesley crew. These charges encompass a range of violent crimes, including murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, and more, casting a shadow over the Bronx's safety. The Fivesley crew, an offshoot of the BloodHound Brims gang, has been linked to a series of violent incidents across the Bronx. Disturbingly, many of these acts of violence took place in broad daylight, heightening the sense of fear among residents. Among the most harrowing incidents is the tragic death of Ariel Santos, a 32-year-old innocent bystander who was caught in a crossfire near 178th Street and Arthur Avenue. This incident underscores the indiscriminate nature of the gang's violent activities. The accused, all aged between 16 and 22, are believed to be responsible for 23 violent crimes. This tally includes 10 non-fatal shootings and 11 robberies, in addition to the aforementioned murder of Santos. The nature of these crimes paints a grim picture, with the gang targeting vulnerable individuals, including the elderly, cab drivers, and even an on-duty NYS parole officer. In several instances, victims were robbed at gunpoint or knife point, with some facing severe physical assault. Two particular incidents highlight the audacity of the gang's operations. One involved a shooting near Ho Avenue and East 174th Street, where a mother and her 2 children were dangerously close to the 3 shots fired. Another saw a brazen shootout at 1825 Prospect Avenue, with a staggering 18 shots ringing out. At number 3, we have the Sev Side and Third Side gang indictment.
City, 46 Park Avenue, boys, bro. Gra. Now take this picture of jail. Jail Curry. Picture of jail Curry.
Y'all forgot I got all of the hits. Pop, Eli, James, Snitch. And we still smoke around the zip. Can't forget a little nasty. I remember I ran in the 6. Walk up, blame it, fuck out the whip.
Wow, what the hell is that?
United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, in conjunction with NYPD Commissioner, has unveiled the unsealing of an indictment targeting members of 2 notorious Bronx gangs, Sev Side and Third Side. The spotlight of the indictment shines on several individuals, including Kevin Perez, known by his alias K-Flock, Devin Mason, Arvin Beeman, Nicholas Johnson, Sean Smith, and Jossie Castro, all affiliated with the Sev Side gang. From the Third Side gang, Ishaya Rosen and Michael Gant have been implicated in a superseding indictment. The charges encompass a range of criminal activities, notably racketeering, conspiracy, and other violent offenses. A standout charge is against Perez aka K-Flock, who is accused of orchestrating the gang-related assassination of Waskar Hernandez on December 16, 2021, in Hamilton Heights, Upper Manhattan. The indictment further details charges related to attempted murder and assault with a dangerous weapon, which are tied to a series of 7 shootings that occurred in the Bronx between June 2020 and February 2022. Both gangs, operating predominantly within the 48th precinct in the Bronx, have a track record of violent confrontations with rival street factions. Their audacity is further exemplified by their brazen promotion of their illicit activities on social media platforms and through music that alludes to real-life violent incidents. Their sphere of influence and disputes weren't confined to the Bronx. They extended their reign of terror to Manhattan, resulting in multiple violent confrontations. The gravity of the charges is evident in the potential penalties. Kevin Perez aka K-Flock, for instance, is staring down the barrel of charges that include racketeering conspiracy, murder in aid of racketeering, and use of a firearm resulting in death. If convicted, he could face mandatory life imprisonment or even the death penalty. Devin Mason and Arvin Beeman are also grappling with severe charges, with potential penalties ranging from mandatory minimum sentences of 10 to 20 years to life imprisonment.
Prosecutors say a Bronx gang member helped build the case against himself when he shot a rival in the head, then bragged about it on Facebook. According to the Bronx District Attorney's Office, DeAndre Harris, a member of the Sevo gang, took part in a shooting, then shared a screenshot of a news article about the incident and wrote, "We going to jail. I hit something in the head." That one line, officials say, became a key piece of evidence in a sweeping investigation that ultimately led to a 71-count indictment against 12 alleged members and associates of Sevo, a Bloods-affiliated street crew based near East 170th Street and Clay Avenue in the Bronx. The investigation found that Sevo members were involved in both street violence and financial crime. Prosecutors say Harris and fellow gang member Joel Baba opened fire on rival gang members at the intersection of Clay Avenue and Andrew Robinson Place. One man was grazed in the head, an injury prosecutors described as a near-fatal strike. Within days, Harris allegedly referenced the shooting in a private conversation online, sending around a screenshot of a news article and adding his incriminating message. When investigators executed social media search warrants later, that message was recovered and used to directly tie him to the Clay Avenue shooting. But the Sevo case was not just about gunfire. The indictment also accused the crew of running a lucrative fraud and ATM theft scheme. Prosecutors say Sevo members stole credit and debit cards, obtained PIN numbers, forged checks, and then drained more than $200,000 in cash from ATMs. They allegedly posed with stacks of money in photos and videos posted on social media, flashing gang signs and bragging about the cash they were making. Investigators tracked suspicious transactions, matched withdrawal patterns to certain locations, and combined that financial evidence with phone records and online activity to map out how the operation worked. Several members were also linked to robberies and intimidation on Bronx streets. In one case from July 2014, gang members Emmanuel Brunson and Lateef Evans were charged with threatening to delete a young boy near Fordham Road and Webster Avenue if he did not surrender his cell phone. Prosecutors say incidents like this were part of Sevo's pattern, using fear, threats, and violence to control their territory and project a reputation for danger in their neighborhood. The combination of violent assaults, armed confrontations, and fraudulent schemes painted a picture of a gang that blended traditional street crime with more modern financial tactics. New York authorities announced one of the largest gun trafficking crackdowns in recent state history after unsealing a sweeping 367-count indictment that targeted a Blood street gang pipeline moving firearms from Connecticut into New York City. According to prosecutors, 9 Bloods members and associates along with a 10th man charged separately in a deletion conspiracy played key roles in a gun-running network that used commuter rail lines, including the Metro-North train system, to smuggle dozens of firearms purchased in Port Chester and Stamford, Connecticut, into the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens for street resale. The indictment, built after a months-long undercover investigation led by the Attorney General's Organized Crime Task Force and the NYPD's Firearms Investigation Unit, revealed that the Bloods had expanded their gun trafficking operations well beyond city borders, establishing routes through Westchester County, parts of Maine, and other states along the East Coast. The investigation, dubbed Operation Redrum, was named after alleged ringleader William Redrum Solar, a Bloods member believed to have overseen the gun pipeline. Solar, along with co-leader Devin Burns Fairburn, a high-ranking Bloods godfather from Brooklyn, allegedly directed the trafficking scheme and coordinated the sale of firearms to buyers throughout New York City. Authorities said Fairburn and Solar served as top members of a Bloods faction known as Red Side, an East Coast branch tied to a long history of violence, narcotics sales, and territorial disputes. According to court documents, the operation functioned like a business. Gun suppliers in Connecticut would acquire firearms including pistols, revolvers, rifles, and assault-style weapons, some legally, others through straw purchases or private sellers. These guns were then transported by gang members and associates onto Metro-North trains, concealed in backpacks and duffel bags, before being delivered to Bronx apartments that served as distribution hubs. Investigators found that at least 11 of the seized weapons had their serial numbers removed, indicating deliberate attempts to make the firearms untraceable once used in crimes. One of the most critical components of the case came from an undercover NYPD detective who infiltrated the network and purchased 93 guns during 47 separate face-to-face transactions, many of them conducted inside 2 Bronx residences. The undercover officer played a central role in establishing trust within the crew, documenting how gang members negotiated prices, bragged about gun availability, and sent each other cell phone photographs of firearms ready for sale. Surveillance, wiretaps, text messages, and forensic analysis later confirmed that the defendants transported weapons across state lines, stored firearms inside gang-controlled apartments, and coordinated transactions with ruthless efficiency. While the majority of the charges centered on illegal gun trafficking, prosecutors also revealed that the investigation uncovered a violent deletion conspiracy linked to Solar's leadership role. Solar was charged with second-degree conspiracy for allegedly plotting to assassinate a rival gang member. A separate defendant, Eric Pills Ransom, was also indicted for his role in that deletion plot. Authorities said the planned deletion underscored the Bloods' reliance on violence to enforce dominance, eliminate threats, and maintain control over their gun pipeline. The indictment named additional defendants, each accused of participating in gun sales, acting as couriers, handling stolen firearms, or brokering deals between Connecticut suppliers and Bronx buyers. Officials emphasized that the crew's activities fed the illegal gun market that routinely fuels shootings, robberies, and retaliatory conflicts across the 5 boroughs. NYPD Commissioner William Bratton warned that every illegal gun sold in our communities is a potential death sentence, underscoring how weapons trafficked by the group were destined for violence on city streets. Authorities announced one of the largest gang crackdowns in recent Bronx history after unsealing a massive indictment charging 40 members and associates of the 9-4 crew, a violent Bloods-affiliated street gang responsible for nearly a decade of shootings, stabbings, robberies, and deletions across the Fordham section of the Bronx. According to Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark, the indictment tied the crew to 40 acts of violence dating back to 2012, including 4 deletions, 5 stabbings, multiple armed assaults, and a series of robberies that terrorized neighborhoods around East 194th Street, Webster Avenue, and Valentine Avenue. Prosecutors described the Fordham area as a bloody battleground, where the 9-4 crew waged violent disputes with rival sets, including local Crip factions and other Blood-affiliated crews. Among those indicted was Latique "La Brim" Johnson, the suspected leader of the 9-4 crew and a reputed ranking member of the BloodHound Brims, one of the largest Blood sets on the East Coast. Prosecutors revealed that despite being incarcerated on a separate shooting case at Rikers Island, Johnson allegedly continued running the gang from behind bars, issuing orders for shootings, retaliations, robberies, and drug operations through coded phone calls, jailhouse communications, and intermediaries. He was accused of directing younger members to carry out violence in his name, including attacks designed to reinforce the crew's dominance in the Fordham area. One of the most disturbing revelations was that the crew allegedly used a 13-year-old boy as a street-level assistant, forcing him to hold guns, deliver drugs, or serve as a lookout to avoid older members being caught with contraband. The juvenile was among the defendants named in the case and was charged in family court, a detail highlighting both the gang's willingness to exploit children and the growing trend of gangs recruiting minors to minimize legal risk. Prosecutors said gang members frequently acknowledged each other using the slang greeting, "whoopty," and were known to brag about shootings, stabbings, and robberies on social media, often posting coded messages, photos with firearms, videos flashing gang signs, and even references to specific violent incidents. The 9-4 crew was primarily composed of BloodHound Brims members, but maintained ties with several other Blood sets, including Sex Money Murday, McBallas, Young Bosses, Red House Gunners, and Loyal Street Gangstas. This network allowed members to obtain guns, drugs, safe houses, and backup for violent retaliations. Prosecutors said their conflicts with Crip factions, especially around Valentine Avenue and certain blocks in Fordham, led to a cycle of retaliatory shootings that spiraled out of control between 2014 and 2015. The indictment connected the crew to 4 deletions, including the demise of Orlando Gonzalez, Angel Caesar, Leonard Hines, and Jose Feliciano, all occurring between June 2014 and October 2015. Each homicide featured hallmarks of gang retaliation: surprise ambushes, shots fired at close range, victims targeted for alleged alliances with rival sets, or disputes over turf and drug territory. In some cases, multiple 9-4 members acted as lookouts, drivers, or backup shooters, turning the incidents into coordinated executions rather than isolated acts of violence. Members were also charged with 5 stabbings, many involving machetes or long knives, tools commonly used by East Coast Blood sets to intimidate or maim rivals. Additional charges included 2 non-fatal shootings, 5 felony assaults, 7 robberies, and incidents such as a U-Haul carjacking, where gang members allegedly forced a victim out of a moving truck at knife point and used the vehicle to transport stolen goods. 13 alleged members and associates of the Bloodhounds and Aggressive Bloods affiliated set operating around Bedford Park were indicted following a long-term investigation into shootings, robberies, and drug sales that authorities say terrorized the neighborhood for more than 2 years. According to the Bronx District Attorney's Office, the crew, made up of individuals between the ages of 17 and 35, was tied to a pattern of violence dating back to 2013. Detectives linked the Bloodhounds to numerous street shootings, group assaults, and coordinated drug activity, while gang members openly bragged about their crimes on Facebook, Instagram, and other social platforms. Prosecutors said the group's social media footprint became a major investigative advantage. Members routinely posted photos with guns, stacks of cash, and coded messages celebrating recent attacks, making it easier for law enforcement to track movements and map out the gang's hierarchy. One of the more violent incidents highlighted in the indictment involved several bloodhounds ambushing a man inside a bodega on East 198th Street and the Grand Concourse. Surveillance video captured the suspects dragging the victim onto the sidewalk before kicking, stomping, and beating him as pedestrians fled the area. In another example, prosecutors pointed to a Facebook message in which Aaron "Onyx Hound" Smith casually asked fellow member Elliot Chastity Floyd to lend him a gun. Floyd herself had posted photos showing off firearms, including one she claimed she received as a birthday gift. Investigators said these online exchanges, along with photos of guns, coded threats, and celebratory posts after shootings, helped connect individual gang members to acts of violence across the neighborhood. Investigators in New York have dismantled yet another violent Mauritania-based network of gangs that turned parts of the Bronx into open-air war zones. According to the Office of the Special Narcotics Prosecutor, more than 50 gang members tied to at least 34 shootings have been taken off the streets in recent years, with the latest case targeting 10 members of the 280 gang. Prosecutors say the crew's alleged 21-year-old leader, Diamond Bogatti Debo Brown, along with top lieutenants Jesus Perez and Gus Carter, drove a brutal turf war against rival Mauritania sets Dub City, WTG, and 6 Wild. Investigators said 280 financed its operation by selling drugs while openly using Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to arrange drug deals, advertise guns, flaunt cash, recruit teens, and taunt rivals. That online trail became key evidence as videos and posts showed members waving pistols, issuing threats, and bragging about shootings. Since 2012, violence linked to these Mauritania crews has left at least 43 people shot, including innocent bystanders, with bullets flying into crowded streets, apartment buildings, courtyards, and even a packed restaurant. Investigators in the Bronx announced a major breakthrough after indicting more than a dozen alleged members of the 280 Gangsta Crips, a violent crew accused of unleashing a years-long wave of targeted shootings and retaliatory attacks across Concourse Village and Claremont. Prosecutors say the crew operated as a tight, gun-heavy unit near the 44th Precinct, patrolling their blocks with illegal firearms and prioritizing revenge and reputation over everything else, especially after 2 earlier deletions sparked a cycle of retaliation. Ambush-style shootings, drive-bys, and broad daylight attacks became so common that families avoided playgrounds, hallways, and corner stores out of fear of getting caught in the crossfire. Ballistics work later showed that the same guns were passed between members and used in multiple shootings, helping detectives link separate crime scenes to the same small circle of shooters. Over several years, investigators built the case with surveillance footage, shell casing analysis, witness interviews, and social media evidence, including videos. Authorities announced the arrest of Christopher Brabs Canada, a Bronx man wanted in connection to a sex money murder-related demise, after a coordinated operation led investigators to a quiet home on Division Street in Oneonta, New York. Canada, who had been on the radar of federal and state authorities for months, was believed to be hiding out at the residence of a relative, attempting to evade capture on serious gang-related deletion and racketeering charges. According to police, the New York-New Jersey Fugitive Task Force received a crucial tip on September 20th, alerting them to Canada's location, prompting a rapid tactical response. He was arrested without incident escorted out peacefully, and immediately transported to New York City for federal processing. Lieutenant Douglas Brenner of the Oneonta Police Department emphasized that Canada was not in the area to commit new crimes, but was instead laying low, blending into a small upstate community that had no prior encounters with him or the Sex Money Murder organization. Christopher Brabs Canada was wanted in connection with a federal indictment charging him and other Sex Money Murder members, including Corey Brown and Jocelyn Rodriguez, with racketeering, firearms offenses, and their alleged roles in the demise of Vincent Davis on July 15, 2012. According to federal court filings, Canada and his co-defendants were part of a violent SMM crew operating within Bronx River, Soundview, and other East Bronx neighborhoods. Sex Money Murder, one of the most feared subsets of the United Blood Nation, has long been linked to the demise, extortion, drug trafficking, witness intimidation, and retaliatory shootings across New York City. Investigators say Davis was targeted as part of an internal conflict and broader gang-related dispute. He was fatally shot on a Bronx street in a demise believed to reinforce Sex Money Murder's reputation for enforcing discipline, carrying out retaliatory strikes, and sending messages to rivals or individuals suspected of cooperating with authorities. Federal prosecutors later tied Davis's death to a larger pattern of violence orchestrated by SMM leaders who often communicated orders through encrypted calls, contraband phones inside Rikers Island, or coded messages relayed through associates. According to court records, Christopher Brabs Canada ultimately pleaded guilty to racketeering charges connected to Sex Money Murder's violent enterprise, including his role in the events surrounding the Davis demise. His co-defendants, Corey Brown and Jocelyn Rodriguez, also faced federal racketeering and firearms charges and received significant prison sentences after being tied to the same SMM crew.
Also known as Caballo, is the leader of the Shooting Boys Gang, a criminal organization based in the University Heights section of the Bronx, New York. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison for the murder of Angel Barrero in November 2020, as well as other racketeering offenses. Dunn initially was a member of the Trinitarios gang before breaking off to form the Shooting Boys in 2017, which led to a violent rivalry between the two gangs. Under Dunn's leadership, the Shooting Boys were involved in extensive drug trafficking, including the sale of crack cocaine, heroin, and marijuana. The gang was also responsible for multiple shootings and violent acts against rival gang members and innocent bystanders. The rivalry between the Shooting Boys and the Trinitarios resulted in numerous non-fatal shootings and escalated gang violence in the Bronx. The culmination of this violence was the murder of Angel Barrero. On November 5, 2020, Barrero was sitting in his parked car when Dunn approached and shot him multiple times. Dunn fled to the Dominican Republic shortly after the murder, but was apprehended by the United States Marshals Service in April 2022 and extradited back to the U.S. Dunn's criminal activities were further complicated by his relationship with Gina Mester, a former NYPD officer who provided him with confidential law enforcement information, helping him evade capture and obstructing federal investigations into the gang. Mester was sentenced to over 5 years in prison for her involvement. Dunn was sentenced in February 2023 and is serving a 35-year prison term, with an additional 5 years of supervised release after his prison.
Have some respect for your fathers. Y'all my children. How dare y'all jokes? Big time busters. If you was really lit like that, you do it on your own like I did. That's why you could never beat me. That's why they laugh at y'all behind your back.
Long Island have announced an indictment against 31 accused gang members who they say are responsible for 18 different shootings.
In one of them, a school teacher was killed after his car was allegedly mistaken for a rival gang member's. Jody Goldberg is in Brentwood with details.
Kimberly Collins Midget was a beloved mother and school teacher. Police say she was killed after her car was mistaken for rival gang members last summer in Hempstead. Those responsible are members of the BloodHound Brims gang, a subset of the Bloods. The leader, Latique Johnson, who went by the Pilot, was allegedly calling shots from his jail cell in California. Omar Barry and Josiah Herbert were at the top of the gang's hierarchy on Long Island. Law enforcement seized tens of thousands of dollars from Johnson's commissary account. They say he would collect dues from lower-ranking members.
He did that from a jail cell in California. He may or may not have thought he was insulated from prosecution on Long Island. He is not.
A total of 31 alleged gang members and associates were arrested.
Latique Johnson, also known as La Brim, is the founder and leader of the BloodHound Brims, a violent faction of the Bloods street gang based in New York City. Johnson was instrumental in organizing and leading the gang's operations both inside and outside prison walls. Johnson was convicted on charges of racketeering, narcotics trafficking, and firearms offenses. In 2019, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison for his role in leading the BloodHound Brims. His leadership was marked by orchestrating violent crimes, including shootings and armed robberies, to maintain control over the gang's territory and operations. Johnson continued to direct gang activities from prison, ordering violent acts, and coordinating criminal enterprises in New York and beyond. In April 2024, Johnson was arraigned on additional charges in Suffolk County, New York, for conspiracy to commit murder and other violent crimes. These charges stem from his continued influence and orders given while he was incarcerated in a federal prison in California. Johnson's leadership and the activities of the BloodHound Brims have significantly impacted communities through violence and illegal activities, prompting extensive law enforcement efforts to dismantle the gang's operations. The story.
You know what I'm saying? It's awareness, basically, as far as, you understand what I'm saying, like the message of, I want some God's work shit too. I'm like, yo, we gotta stop killing each other. We gotta start uplifting each other. We gotta start buying from black-owned communities instead of taking our money and going and taking our money out there and getting rollies and Porsches and you know what I'm saying?
Dwight Reed, known by his alias Dick Wolf, is a prominent leader of the Guerrilla Stone Bloods, a subset of the United Blood Nation in New York. Under his leadership, the Guerrilla Stone Bloods have been deeply involved in various criminal activities, including drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, robbery, and acts of violence to maintain their territorial control. Reed's gang has distributed illegal drugs across New York and used violence and intimidation against rival gangs and perceived threats. Reed, along with other high-ranking members, has faced numerous legal issues, including arrests and indictments related to their criminal operations. In 2020, several members, including Reed, were indicted on charges of racketeering, drug trafficking, and weapons offenses. His leadership has contributed to the gang's fearsome reputation and drawn significant attention from law enforcement agencies, resulting in multiple investigations and efforts to dismantle the gang. Dwight Dick Wolf Reed's influence within the Guerrilla Stone Bloods continues to shape the criminal landscape of New York. Larry Calderon, or Larry O, is a significant figure in New York's criminal underworld, known for his leadership of the Mac Ballers family, a subset of the Bloods, but broke away from the Brim Alliance. Under Larry O's leadership, the Mac Ballers engage in various criminal enterprises, including drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, robbery, and violent assaults. Operating primarily in New York City, the gang maintains control over certain territories through violence and intimidation, particularly in the distribution of drugs. The Mac Ballers are known for their aggressive tactics against rival gangs and individuals who threaten their operations. Larry O and his gang members have faced numerous legal issues, including arrests and indictments, as a result of extensive law enforcement investigations aimed at dismantling their operations and reducing violence. His leadership has significantly impacted the communities where the Mac Ballers operate, contributing to a climate of fear and violence. Consequently, Larry O. and the Mac Ballers have become a primary focus for law enforcement agencies working to combat gang violence and crime in New York City, leading to numerous crackdowns and efforts to bring gang members to justice.
The Bronx remains one of the most culturally powerful places in America, a borough of creators, inventors, and icons. Yet it has also become a battleground where gangs rewrite the streets through violence, fear, and digital bravado. Each takedown from 280 to RPT, from the BloodHound Brims Bloods to Gorilla Stone Bloods, from Sevo to Two Fly Gigs represents one more step toward restoring safety in communities that have carried the weight of this conflict for far too long. But the story doesn't end with indictments. After every arrest, new teens try to rise up, inspired by the glorification of gang culture online, the desperation of poverty, and the false promise of fast money. The borough continues fighting back through federal racketeering cases, community programs, surveillance strategies, and neighborhood voices refusing to accept violence as the norm. What happens next depends not only on law enforcement, but on whether the next generation chooses the path of Bronx greatness, the same path walked by the legends who shaped music, arts, sports, and culture across the world. The Bronx is more than its headlines. It is history, innovation, struggle, survival, and brilliance. And while these gang takedowns reveal the darkest corners of the borough, they also make room for a future where the next Bronx legend rises not from violence, but from talent, creativity, and the unbreakable spirit that has defined this community for decades.